partner with us and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Josh, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. So, to kind of give our listeners a recap, if they missed last episode when you were on, you said that the first day of testimony was from other legislators from Indiana, North Carolina, and they were actually advocating for, less, potential less money going to the government, lowering taxes and that sort of thing. It sounded like it was really good. You seem to be pretty favorable to that. What about today when the consultant, Randy Bauer, who we've paid $300,000, or his company, and, of course, he's kind of he's a liberal, lifelong Democrat. It was his turn to give his testimony. So what happened today at the task force meeting?
Yeah, like you said, yesterday was, okay, these are conservative Republicans. That was one of the legislators, how he described himself. And these are how they've cut taxes and eliminated taxes such as the inventory tax or the franchise tax. And this is what's happened. They've gone up the ranks. Their state has improved economically, and there's more economic freedom in those states. And so that's what we heard yesterday. Well, it was kind of more of what we've heard from Mr. Bauer and the consultants, just a lot of information. And to be honest, Paul, it was a lot of, of ideas I personally wouldn't want legislators to be thinking about, things like tax increment financing, eliminating exemptions, property tax for churches or charitable organizations.
Wow.
I don't want the legislator hearing ideas of ways to raise revenue. I want them to focus on ways to cut spending and then cut rates.
So let me stop you there. You're saying that the Randy Bauer was talking about eliminating the property tax exemption on churches. That's what you're saying.
That was part of the presentation.
Wow. Josh, you're breaking up a little bit, sir.
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah. I'm sorry. You were breaking up just a little bit, so we missed the first part of what you were trying to say. We can't hear him. Hey, Joe, will you try to get him back on the line? See if we can't get a clear connection. I don't know where he's calling from. I mean, I'm assuming he's calling from somewhere in the I-40 corridor. So that would be. Sometimes it can get bad reception that way. So it depends. Folks, the sound off on Facebook, by the way. But that right there, we'll get him back on the line. But that alone is pretty wild if you think about, like, I know they're talking about getting rid of exemptions, but you're telling me we are so desperate for revenue and more government growth, or let's say revenue neutral is what they would say, that we're going to end the deduction for churches and nonprofits. We have Josh Waters back on the line. So I can't believe that was part of the Josh, the recommendations or the testimony. Tell us a little bit more. You said that there was something else about a property tax. I didn't quite recognize that phrase that you said.
Yeah, so there was this. It was kind of brief, and most people probably wouldn't have recognized it, but it was tax increment financing, and that initially really grabbed my attention. I'm like, tax increment financing. I think I've read about this. I may have even written about this, and so I immediately went to conduitforcommerce.org, and if you go there under the crony capitalism tab, the introductory paragraphs talk about tax increment financing as a tool to promote crony capitalism. Essentially, it's rebates or total exemptions on property taxes, those kind of a thing, for these special districts. So you get recognized as a district, and you get these rebates or credits or however they structure it. And then a lot of times they can turn around and sell the tax credits to their other business or offset taxes they owe other places. And there's just been, a lot of examples of very egregious abuse of this and whether or not they produce economic development is a whole other question. But that type of crony capitalism, I just hope our state doesn't look to that as a model to pursue.
Yeah, that was interesting. I also know tax increment financing, this idea concerning property tax.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. Those of you watching on the program, you obviously can tell that we have State Representative Dan Sullivan is with us in studio. Dan, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Paul, always good to be here. Thank you.
We also have a special treat as well from the Alliance Defending Freedom, the senior counsel, Mr. Tyson Langhofer is on the phone. Tyson, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Absolutely, and I know you're in the middle of traveling. I appreciate you able to take the time out of your day to talk to us about this. The case that we're referring to is, right here in Arkansas. Arkansas State University has been sued by Turning Point USA. This from the Associated Press, and it says attorneys with Alliance Defending Freedom filed the federal lawsuit Wednesday on behalf of student Ashlyn Hoggard and conservative group Turning Point USA. The Jonesboro Sun reported Hoggard set up a table at the university in October hoping to generate interest in forming a campus chapter of Turning Point USA, but an administrator told her to stop. So, Tyson, what can you tell us as senior counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom? What can you tell us about this particular incident?
Sure. Well, we represent Ashlyn. Ashlyn's a student that really is passionate about our First Amendment freedoms. She's passionate about limited government, and she wanted to bring a new voice, a new group to Arkansas State University. So she, applied to form Turning Point USA. In order to do that, you have to have at least 5 members. And so she thought, well, I'm going to go set up a table out in the front of the student union where there's a lot of foot traffic. And she set it up along the side of a large walkway, open walkway on the side where she wasn't blocking any sort of traffic. And she just had a sign that and a bowl of candy. And within several minutes, an administrator and a police officer came over and told her that she had to move because for 2 reasons. One, she was not in the speech zone. And apparently Arkansas State has a policy which limits students to speaking to other students into speech zones. And not only do they limit them that way, but they also require prior permission before doing so. And so they ordered Ashlyn to leave, and she did leave. And Ashlyn contacted us, and we filed a lawsuit challenging these policies because they're unconstitutional.
So what exactly, because I know the university, they said, look, our policy is consistent with the First Amendment. So, I mean, when I cover this, it's like, okay, well, somebody says, no, we're following the First Amendment. Somebody else says, no, you're not. So where's the rub? Obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the First Amendment is very clear that what this is a prior restraint. The public university is a public forum for its students, and it has large open walkways, it has park-like areas, and the university is a public institution, and it can't shut down areas and require students to get prior permission before engaging in speech in these public forums. And that's very clear. I'm not aware of a case in the country which has upheld a policy which limits students to small speech zones on its campus. And we've litigated these for more than 10 years. We have a more than a 90% success rate. And I've looked at this. This policy is similar to ones that we've struck down in many, many other states and many other jurisdictions. And, so college students don't need a permit to speak to other students on campus. The only permit they need is the First Amendment.
I mean, I completely agree with that. And, I would wonder kind of how this came about. You mentioned other universities. Are there any other universities in Arkansas that you know of that have this similar policy where they're basically, advancing this concept of freedom of speech zones?
Yeah, I believe University of Arkansas has one as well. And you can look. There's some websites that track this, and I've looked at University of Arkansas. I believe they have one as well. The policies are fairly prevalent. They are becoming less so because they're being attacked and struck down so often. But they go across the country, and it's this mindset by universities, by government officials of this nanny state that they somehow have to monitor every action that's taken by these students are adults, and they don't need to be monitored in every action that they take on the university campus. There's all kinds of policies that the university can use if there is a problem. They have policies that say you can't block doorways, you can't block the sidewalks, you can't harass other people. So if they're doing those things, they can shut down that activity. But they can't require every student to obtain prior permission before speaking with other students. That's unconstitutional, and frankly, it's unnecessary, and it really undermines the purpose of a university, which is to allow these students to engage in the marketplace of ideas.
Hey, Tyson, it's Dan. How you doing?
Hey, Dan. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, we've spoken a few times. I talked with the university officials very short. As soon as this was filed, they called and want to arrange a meeting, and I fully expect them, anticipate they'll work with us to correct this. What would you consider is the correction? What do they need to do to correct their policy so they're consistent with our First Amendment?
Sure, absolutely. And frankly, that's our goal. Our goal is not to punish. Our goal is just to get a good policy. And a good policy is one that basically in the open outdoor areas of campus, we're not talking about buildings that are set aside for academic use, and we're not talking about athletic facilities. Those are set aside for certain purposes. But in the open outdoor areas of campus, students should be free to speak to other students. They shouldn't have to get a permit, and they can impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, such as they could say you can't stand outside the dorms at 3 a.m. with a bullhorn. Clearly, that's not necessary, and that's a reasonable restriction. But in the open outdoor areas of campus, sidewalks, parks, grass, things like that, the students can engage with other students without a prior permit. And so as long as they can, basically take away these speech zones, take away the prior restraints, and allow students to engage subject to certain reasonable restrictions without, not blocking or harassing, things like that, then that's a policy that is constitutional and, frankly, accomplishes the goals of the university, which is to make a campus which is amenable to students being able to learn and educate themselves.
Tyson, I've met with our college Republicans several times. I'm just really proud of them stepping up. I know they were a little anxious when this first happened, a little scared, intimidated, in fact. And I know you came to the campus, didn't you, and met with the college Republicans?
I came and met with Ashland, correct. I looked around the campus and I saw it, and it's very consistent with all the other universities that I've met with. And there's no, and seen, and there's no reason that these permits are needed. There's no reason these restrictions are needed. The students can accomplish what they want, and the university can accomplish what they want without having these draconian restrictions imposed. And one of the real problems with these is that almost always the university has authority to grant the permit without any kind of restriction, and that's called unbridled discretion. It's unconstitutional because it gives a university or a government official the right to say who can speak and who can't, and they can favor one viewpoint over another. And we don't want that type of the First Amendment does not allow that type of power to be given to an official.
Tyson, the Alliance Defending Freedom is a very prominent organization nationally, and you have not only yourself, but you have quite a few distinguished board members. Could you speak to that just a bit about, let people know how you're not just a kind of a loose group that runs around the state. This is a distinguished group of attorneys and business people who are defending our First Amendment.
Absolutely. We've been around for about 24 years, and in the last, we've won 6 Supreme Court arguments in the last 6 years. We just argued one last week. We've got another one scheduled in February. We're one of the most successful and respected, Supreme Court advocates on First Amendment issues. And we deal with, in my area, the Center for Academic Freedom University issues, but we also deal with pro-life issues. We also deal with protecting the churches and religious freedom areas, and then also rights of conscience. And, we were formed by some prominent ministries, James Dobson and a number of others that came together and said we need an organization that will fight for our freedom of religion and our First Amendment free speech rights.
Oh, we're talking with Tyson Langhofer from the Alliance Defending Freedom. He's senior counsel. He's involved in this representing Ashlyn Hoggard, an Arkansas State University student. I'm so glad that you guys exist. I want to echo what Dan was just saying, because honestly, when you go issue by issue with like an average Arkansan, we're very conservative. We believe in the Bill of Rights. We believe in the United States Constitution. We're not afraid of freedom. And so when you mentioned earlier, Tyson, that this is a public institution, they're getting our money, okay? They're getting taxpayer dollars, and then to have, a policy that just is not consistent with the opinions of a vast majority of Arkansans, and I can say that with a lot of confidence. I hope that this lawsuit nudges them in the right direction to say, you know what, we don't need to institutionalize kids to, get used to the free speech zones that the government, has. We've had leftists talk about that, that needs to be a thing in just normal public life, not to mention universities. So I just, again, Tyson, want to thank you for what you guys are doing, and hopefully Arkansas State will make the right move here.
Absolutely, and that's our goal as well. We want a constitutional policy, and frankly, this shouldn't be a controversial issue. This applies. The First Amendment applies to liberals, it applies to conservatives, libertarians, socialists. Everybody benefits from the right to freedom of speech, and this will open up the marketplace for all students of all voices at Arkansas State, and that's our goal.
All right, we appreciate it, Tyson Langhofer.
All right.
Be safe. Have a Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Thanks. Merry Christmas to you.
All righty, folks. We're going to go to break. We're going to be back with State Representative Dan Sullivan, talk a little bit more about this and this poster you got here that says, "In God We Trust." So don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to be back in just a moment.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works Obamacare private option, has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're joined here for the rest of this small segment here with State Representative Dan Sullivan from District 53. Wow, I'm just going to say this after listening to Tyson Langhofer. Pretty sure ASU is going to have to change that policy of theirs.
I think so too, and I think they're willing. I mean, I think sometimes these policies are written back before any of these board members were on. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been an issue. When I spoke with folks at ASU, they were very willing to sit down and meet with our local legislators and work through it. And I know they have told me they are consistently for free speech. So I anticipate working through this, but it'll be fun.
Well, and it might trickle down to, over to the U of A too. If they have a similar policy.
Yeah, it might even trickle down to the Second Amendment.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, all right. So that's a great point. When you had the concept, the left said guns on college campuses, but originally that bill that that turned into what I consider pretty much of a mess. But it was just pretty simple. Professors, if you had a concealed carry, could carry. And the universities were totally against it, and so it is interesting. We don't like the Second Amendment, okay, and we don't like the First Amendment. So, what kind of values and policies do they really have?
Well, hopefully this will continue to spur that conversation. If we have free speech zones, where is going to be our Second Amendment zone, or where isn't our Second Amendment zone?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm
the whole campus.
The whole campus.
It's a gun-free zone.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see, but it's a great opportunity for us to start to have that conversation in a new context where we're looking at our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and our other rights that are given by God, that we are having restrictions placed on them that other men place on me, whether it's First or Second Amendment or others.
Mm-hmm. So we're hopeful that Arkansas State changes this policy, and I think you are. I think you're doing a great job being a mediator. It sounds like they're calling you and everything else.
Sure, and I really hope that we have some board members. I know most of the board members fairly well. I've known them for a number of years, and I know my competitor, or my opponent I guess, has one of the board members is one of his primary sponsors. So I hope they will reach out and take the lead on this. And I know there are other people that support my opponent that should be taking the lead on this too.
Yeah. Well, if you look at your opponent, he's entirely funded by healthcare interests. So the new medical school, for example, at Arkansas State, you've got, I'm sure, a lot of, it just seems very strange.
And he's entirely silent.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get a hold of him.
And what a great opportunity for all of us to enter in that discussion with ASU, board members, legislators, administration, and the public, to let our university know how you feel about our First and Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something we've got to have this discussion.
Absolutely.
So I'm really glad that the Alliance Defending Freedom is involved, and it sounds like they're going to have to change their policy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've met with them several times. I'm really proud of our college Republicans. You talk about some young people stepping up to the plate. Folks, again, if you get a chance to support them and let them know how much you appreciate them, these are the kinds of young people that we need to be supporting. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they're engaged.
Tell me about this. This is, show this to the camera. Folks, I'll describe it to you. I'll listen on radio. It just says, "In God We Trust," with the American flag right next to the Arkansas flag. So what is this, Dan?
Yeah, the legislature in this past session passed legislation to put our national motto, "In God We Trust," in all the classrooms in the state of Arkansas. We're working with a group, Heritage Foundation, and I've got 500 of these that I've purchased. Of course, they're only 75 cents, so it's not a big deal. But we are, I'm ready to put these in every classroom in District 53, which is Jonesboro, Brookland, Bay, Riverside, Buffalo Island, Brooklyn, those school districts. I've met with most of their school boards, and they're excited about it. And I'm going to be meeting with parent groups and church groups. I've already had a couple of churches call, and they want to get some signs and go to their kids' and grandkids' rooms and place them in those classrooms. So it's just a great opportunity, and anyone that would like to help get these signs in District 53, if they'll just give me a call or shoot me a text at 870-275-2929, or go on my Facebook page. They can get that information, text me, Facebook me, and after the first of the year, we'll help them organize and get those in their classrooms.
Wow.
If they want to, if they're not in those districts, but in another district, they can contact their local legislator, and they'll be glad to help them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, let me just ask you that on that subject: are all of the legislators, do they have these signs or have access to these signs? Or?
You have access to them. You know,
Okay.
There are Senator Jason Rapert is one of the people leading the way. Representative Jim Dodson is leading the way from Northwest Arkansas. But you know, I just called up and said I need 500, and they sent me 500.
And so this was a bill just to say, hey, we want to put these in every classroom.
Sure, yeah, and it's already been litigated, and that's why I've tried to meet with school boards to let them know they're not going to get a lawsuit, that they can win the lawsuit if they do that. And Alliance Defending Freedom will defend it for
we got
free.
Alliance Defending Freedom. What's interesting is, and I can't remember if this was, I don't know if this was another bill that I'm thinking of. It seems like, no, I tell you what it was. There's a bill, this reminds me of a David Barton initiative. You're familiar with David Barton. You went down there.
This part of it.
Okay.
Yes, this is all part of that.
Does this have to do with if you put Founding Father quotes in your classroom, you can't take out the religious references in there. You have to put the entire quote of what, Jefferson said or Washington said or something like that.
One of the things I'm most proud of, Paul, is as a legislator, is I have done what I said I was going to do. And when I campaigned originally, I espoused very conservative views and talked about, freedom of religion and how important it was, whether you're Christian or any other religion. It's freedom that counts, and I would stand for religious freedom. And this is just another step that we're taking here to espouse and freedom and allow religious freedom in our schools. The Bible says to put these kinds of signs on your doorpost and on your arms and on your forehead. And, I've had just a little bit of concern from some churches who still see this separation of church and state. But, this
in the wrong way.
In the wrong way.
Yeah, in the way it's like we can't have God in public life. It's only for Sundays, only in the building with four walls and a roof. But it was actually meant to protect the church from the government edicts.
And they're just a little bit afraid. And it's time that we boldly proclaim God's word, boldly proclaim that in God we trust.
State Representative Dan Sullivan, Merry Christmas to you.
Paul.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, and same to you and your audience.
All right, folks, we got to go. It may be the biggest news day of the year. We've already had a great half hour. I'll get into the rest of the news when we come back.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
It's not just opposed, by Conduit for Commerce, but also a national organization like the Cato Institute. They've got some negative stuff to say about it as well. I was able to listen into a few live streams this morning of Randy Bauer's testimony. Again, a lifelong Democrat that we've hired to come in and advise a bunch of Republicans on what tax policy is. One of the things he said when he was talking about property taxes was that bond rating agencies really like property taxes because it's a stable source of revenue in an economic downturn. Did you hear that part?
Yeah, it's, again, unfortunately, a way we can – it was basically how can we, find ways to raise revenue or other ways to make sure we can increase the revenue going forward without cutting taxes or spending elsewhere. And that's, I think, maybe plays into that. And like we talked about, you talked about last week, Paul, bonds are equals future tax increases. And, they do want to look at that. They want to know, okay, if property taxes are high or the rates are high, those are a somewhat reliable source of income to the state rather than income taxes or sales taxes that fluctuate based on the economy. But people, you owe your property tax regardless if you got the money or not. If you made money or not this year, the bill comes due. And so I think that was one focus, though, maybe a positive spin out of it was, okay, we understand that property taxes are maybe, if we raise those are the most politically toxic because, typically the people who own a lot of property, whether or not they can pay it, that's always a question. So, it's kind of an unfair type of thing. Okay, here's your tax bill you get a couple times a year, property tax or however it's sent out, and then whether or not they can pay it, they don't really care, whereas the sales tax and income tax is based on how the economy is doing, your personal consumption or your personal production.
Was there any consensus? Because, it sounds like it was a different feel. The meeting yesterday, again, was about, seemed to be actual tax cut ideas and what other states have done. The meeting today, more about revenue neutral, which is, not really about shrinking government and then giving more money back to the people. It's more about making sure that government has the exact same amount of money at least as it's getting now, and just kind of shifting everything around. The presentation as a whole, though, Randy Bauer, I've covered this. You can go see his tweets. But what were the thoughts? How was the performance of the presentation?
Well, there were at least two instances that I can remember that were just pointed out. We don't know if there's more. There's two instances, Paul, today where the amount of revenue that was collected from a specific tax is the inventory tax. That was actually corrected.
right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. We are getting close. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Joe, are you excited? You have big plans? Yeah. In Thanksgiving, you go off to Chicago. You're just going home, which is Mississippi, right? All right. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'm glad. It's always good to go home for the holidays, as they say. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. 870-275-9799. So here's the news. Doug Thompson, and the Talk Business had a piece. That's the first thing I read was Talk Business last night. That's the first thing that I read. And then this morning, I feel like Doug Thompson had really the best article out there, the best one that there was. Here's the headline. Filing. Nonprofit funds milked for lobbying. 2 in Arkansas said to be involved in scheme. And what do we know? What is this? Oh, you don't have it? Well, you can just, if you'll just Google nonprofit funds milked, Joe, it'll come up. My apologies. So this is a huge thing. This has to do with preferred family health care. Now, flashing back a couple of weeks ago, I lost it when I found out that the attorney for preferred family health care, which is under investigation for apparently now numerous, schemes, the attorney for that is the same attorney who's representing or working as like a mediator between the FBI and the Bureau of Legislative Research in Arkansas in the John Woods public corruption trial. And I said, this is a big problem because you have an attorney that is preparing witnesses, the BLR people. They're dealing with the FBI request for data out of the BLR, the Bureau of Legislative Research. And it just so happens that this attorney is also representing the Goss family or their organization, Preferred Family Health Care, and it's a huge problem. And you had Senator Bill Sample of Hot Springs saying, well, the BLR is fine with it, so I'm fine with it. And, you just start to think at some point, wow, is this concept that you hear in D.C. of the deep state, is the fix in here in Arkansas as well? Doug Thompson writes that almost $1 million was skimmed from a Missouri-based nonprofit by 3 company executives, 2 associates in Arkansas, and a consultant from Philadelphia in a political influence peddling scheme that reached all the way to Congress, according to a federal guilty plea entered on Monday. Now, let me just stop there. In that first paragraph, okay, flashback a week ago, when Talk Business and Politics reported on a story that we reported on first, where we just happened to notice that 15 sealed indictments had been filed in the Western District of Arkansas's court. 7 had been filed in the Eastern District, okay? And Talk Business's sources said, well, our sources say that it's probably unrelated to the FBI investigation because there's also these indictments that have been filed around the same time in Texas and in these other places as well. And so they were thinking, well, maybe this is more of a drug scheme or a drug operation or whatever. And then last week we had a really weird occurrence where a Massachusetts indictment was unsealed, and we found out there's a Massachusetts guy who had been basically, according to the FBI, using his office as a criminal enterprise, quote, criminal enterprise, where he was passing legislation and he was disguising the kickbacks he was receiving as legal fees, which is very, very interesting considering what we know about Arkansas, that with attorneys, as long as your contract with the attorney who happens to be a legislator says this contract is not for lobbying services, as long as that line is in there, you have a loophole. And, that's we've explored that many, many times. So that's interesting. All I'm saying is now we have this Missouri situation, and it's not it's just a plea that's been revealed, a bargain, but it is pretty fascinating. How long is this FBI investigation going to go on? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I got a feeling, I have a feeling this FBI investigation has been going on a lot longer than any of us know. All right, so paragraph 2 of Doug Thompson, alternative opportunities, now known as Preferred Family Healthcare of Springfield, Missouri, is the nonprofit organization involved. The company is also connected to a federal kickback case in Arkansas involving former State Senator John Woods of Springdale. He's been indicted. His trial was supposed to start on the 4th. It's been postponed because of secret recordings that were discovered. More on that in a moment. In the third case, it was the target of embezzlement by a former board member who in June pleaded guilty in Missouri to taking almost $2 million. Donald Andrew Jones, Don Jones, 62, of New Jersey, pleaded guilty Monday in U.S. District Court in Missouri to one count of conspiring with others to defraud the company now known as Preferred Family, which receives private donations along with taxpayer money. Money taken from the nonprofit organization was used to illegally lobby and make campaign contributions to get more federal and state support. The plea agreement says such lobbying and contributions are strictly forbidden to nonprofit corporations. The activity occurred as recently as January of this year, according to a plea agreement. Stop right there. Now, indirectly, I feel like I have to make this point. This is healthcare related. This is why it's not just about general improvement funds. Back 3 months ago when our sources said the FBI indictments were coming, that the FBI had met with the Arkansas Senate to tell them the amount of people that were going to have to resign, all of that, when all of that happened, not only did it, it kind of send shockwaves across, and everybody was talking about it, but fast forward, I mean, it's been completely silent, okay? But I feel like I have to make this point. The news that we got was that the indictments were coming. That hasn't happened. But that the investigations were no longer just about general improvement funds, but they had now branched into Medicaid fraud. That's no surprise. Arkansas entered into a $2 billion program a year starting in 2013. But Arkansas did this based on Republican majorities that came into office that had campaigned specifically against implementing Obamacare's Medicaid expansion. What I have always said, and this is the point I feel the need to make, is that Democrats don't need the money because they honestly believe in the principle of Medicare for all or socialized medicine. But Republicans who campaign against a policy and then implement it are not going to do that for free. And so, again, money taken from the nonprofit organization was used to illegally lobby and make campaign contributions to get more federal and state support. All that says to me is, okay, that means that they're taking this money and they're using it to get more government money for themselves. But I think with just a little creative thinking, you can understand why I felt the need to make the point that I just did. Jones was a political consultant. Well, isn't that special, right? A political consultant. So many politicians, they'd love to become political consultants, or they love to become a consultant once they become a state rep or state senator. He was based in Philadelphia, though. The company then, which is now Preferred Family Healthcare, was once Alternative Opportunities. It also used to pass along kickbacks from Arkansas General Improvement Fund grants AmeriWorks to a job training firm, according to a federal indictment in Arkansas charging John Woods with fraud. Woods is set for a trial April the 9th. In part, John Woods is accused of arranging $400,000 from the state's improvement fund for AmeriWorks, a Bentonville-based nonprofit used that name, the address and staff of an affiliate of Alternative Opportunities. Again, Alternative Opportunities is now Preferred Family Healthcare. But you know what's interesting? If you if you do a little research and you go back to 2013, you can find a bill that's fascinating. It was not a bill, it was really actually a resolution, and technically there's a difference. There was a Senate resolution number 31. Joe, can you show this to people? This was Senate resolution number 31 by the governor's number 2 nephew, Senator Jeremy Hutchinson. Senate Resolution SR 31 of 2013 says this: commending Alternative Opportunities for its hard work and dedication to improve the mental health of children, adolescents, and adults, combat substance abuse, promote sobriety, and offer innovative solutions under its business names, Dayspring Behavioral Health and Decision Point Treatment Services, and applauding its significant contributions to the establishment of the first recovery high school in Arkansas, the Alex Recovery High School in Bentonville, Arkansas. I just find this little resolution interesting, don't you? And look, keep in mind, look, we're talking about the Goss family again. That was mentioned in that article a few weeks ago where it was talking about they're using the same attorney as the government is using to communicate with the FBI about what Arkansas government documents they can have and what they can and can't have. Okay? So keep that in mind right there. It's their names, Tom and Bontia Goss. Tom and Bontia Goss. All right? Back to this article today. Let's see here. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay. Preferred Family Health Care merged with Alternative Opportunities on May 1st of 2015. Alternative Opportunities acquired Preferred Family, but assumed the Preferred Family name. So Alternative Opportunities is one that bought Preferred Family. The group oversees counseling, substance abuse, treatment, and other services throughout Arkansas and other states. Quote, it's important to note that Preferred Family Health Care is not a target of the government's investigation, company spokesman Reginald McHannon, or McElhannon, said in a statement. We take seriously the allegations that individuals associated with Alternative Opportunities may have engaged in unlawful activity unbeknownst to the rest of the organization. Preferred Family Health Care is working with the government to fully understand the allegations and take any additional steps as appropriate. Well, it's interesting, though, because down here you find out that the Gosses, they stepped down. They're on a leave of absence, right? Preferred Family confirmed last month that its chief operating officer, its chief financial officer, and another executive were placed on administrative leave, but it declined to further comment. Those executives are Bontia Goss, Tom Goss, who is Bontia's husband, and Marilyn Nolan, a member of the senior management team. Weren't those the same people that were commended by the Arkansas General Assembly, sponsored by Jeremy Hutchinson, Senator Hutchinson? Aren't these the same people? You see, there's a lot of rich, I don't know. Let's see, is it the opposite of truth? Would they call it irony? Let me just say, I have been so critical of these stupid award ceremonies that they do before they actually get to the business of the people when they're down at the Marble Palace and in session, and it drives me nuts. I'm sitting up there in the gallery, and it is a waste of time to recognize people who don't deserve recognition, okay? Okay, so, like, this is, seriously, this is why it's kind of very funny, or I guess it is ironic, because it's very irritating, and yet you have this piece here which is just like, okay, well, this is kind of maybe indicative of some motivations. I might, just reveal maybe some motives of who's in with who's traveling with what circle, and what meetings are they going to at the 1836 Club. So let me clarify, okay? You know who needs recognition by the Arkansas General Assembly? First of all, Arkansas business owners that have to put up with their big government ways, okay? Second of all, okay, Miss America. I was down there, they recognized Savvy Shields. Yes, okay, there's not a lot of Miss Americas who are from Arkansas. Yes, recognize her. You know who else needs recognition? just somebody who saved a whole family from a burning building. Get that guy down there. But just every day, you're passing resolutions. There's one guy that passed a resolution to honor his grandmother, who happened to be, I'm sure, a great public school teacher. I believe she was working with special ed kids. But come on. I mean, that's not worth the recognition of an entire legislative body. And they've always driven me nuts. And it always has. When they recognize somebody, it needs to be, oh my goodness. It needs to be a rare thing, so when you actually do it, it means something. But every single day, they've got to recognize somebody, and it's just, and they're past some resolution, commencing or commending preferred family health care, alternative opportunities, or whatever. And that's why it's very ironic here that you have that particular resolution. It goes on. Okay, hang on. We got to keep going here. A fourth person whom Jones' plea agreement refers to, person 4, a resident of Rogers, Arkansas, who was a lobbyist and employee of the charity. Someone identified as person 7 in the plea is a resident of Melbourne, who was an Arkansas legislator from 2006 to 2011. The Gosses and Noland founded the Alternative Opportunities Operation in Arkansas in 2006. Secretary of State's Office and Corporation records show, again, Doug Thompson reporting, also shown on those incorporation papers as a director, Eddie Cooper. The state representative from Melbourne at the time was Eddie Cooper, at the time of the alleged scheme in Missouri. He served from 2005 to 2011. He is currently the director of Day Spring Behavioral Health Services and a consultant for the Cooper Cranford Agency, a lobbying firm according to his professional profile. He was also a lobbyist for the Cranford Coalition, Cranford's lobbying firm in Little Rock, according to records of the Secretary of State's office. The guilty plea also lists an Entity E, a Missouri-based corporation that, quote, was in the business of repackaging and selling indoor thermostats imported from China, end quote. Those identified as Person 1 and Person 2 owned a combined 45% share of Entity E, and a relative of Person 2 owned another 45% share. Tom and Bontia Goss are board members of Pro One, a thermostat company in Springfield, according to corporate records posted earlier this year. Cranford represented the Gosses and Pro One in meetings with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. Here we go. Way to go. Trying to get some more of that taxpayer money, I'm sure. Arkansas Economic Development Commission. Of course, they are in the business of creating jobs that get talked about but never actually exist. Jane Duke of Little Rock, attorney for Tom Goss and formerly of AmeriWorks, did not reply to an email request for comment. You know, that's interesting. Doug Thompson, you've done a fantastic job here. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, fantastic job. Let me just say this. I guess Jane Duke didn't respond to requests for comment because she's too busy preparing witnesses for the Bureau of Legislative Research. Maybe she's too busy having a massive conflict of interest by being the attorney to correspond with the FBI about inquiries concerning a big scheme that is encompassing her other client, the Goss family. So, I mean, with this report, honestly, I'm telling you, the Arkansas Legislative Council, the Bureau of Legislative Research, you guys have got to get a new counsel. You've got to get a new attorney. This is ridiculous. We are not morons. And this is the appearance of corruption, and that really is the only thing. This is by any objective standard, okay, or by any standard, okay, whether this is the appearance of corruption. It just is the appearance, okay? We don't have proof about this, but it's the appearance, and for the sake of the confidence that we all want to have in the government and the justice system, BLR, get a new attorney. It's ridiculous. We got to take a break. We have much more to get to today. This may be the biggest news day of the year. With all of this, combined with the tax cut legislation going on in D.C. I understand the House is going to have to vote again because of some glitch. We'll talk about that, too. Don't go anywhere.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media. Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations, you have made it to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, where we strive to offer politicians the very best in ambiguously specific language, the purpose of which is to allow our politician bosses to grow government and keep their constituents in the dark. This yields two beneficial outcomes. First, the government-growing politicians stay in office, and second, we at the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language get to remain in the shadows and get to keep our jobs. Now, it's time for technocrat training drills. Johnny?
Yes?
A politician wants to use the healthcare system to punish those who have and redistribute their wealth. What is the appropriate language to use in this situation to make an unpopular idea acceptable to the public?
I would emphasize that these ideas would make their healthcare more affordable and make sure the public understands if they already have adequate healthcare, nothing will change for them.
Very good, Johnny. Much progress since last time. Next up, let's have Susie. Susie, your politician has been caught in, dare I say it, a lie.
What kind of a lie?
It doesn't really matter, but in the spirit of the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, I will give you a good hypothetical scenario. Dozens of politicians have been thrown out of office for supporting a socialist healthcare program. So the remaining politicians get together and they pass a bill to, quote, end the program, end quote. But they really want to keep it. What should they do, Susie?
May I ask a question for more information?
Certainly.
Has the word lie been used by the political opposition?
Yes.
I know. They should change the name of the program. Maybe use the word works to make the sheeple think it's for working folk. Then they should go on the attack and get the public distracted. I would advise the politician to publicly question why our political dialogue has become so uncivilized and tell them to claim using the word lie, no matter how accurate, is a personal attack on his or her character. And if they admit to any wrongdoing at all, they must replace the word lie with words like misspoke, misstatement, misrepresent, or mislead.
Amazing! Excellent work, Susie. I feel like the student has really become the teacher. You will make a terrific addition to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language.
All hands on deck. This is a Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language emergency. Several politicians are scrambling after being exposed by some talk radio host. Let's move it, people. They need our help.
The Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language. You vote 'em in, and we keep 'em in. PHP Parody.
All right, so I have, real quick before we go to break and we get ready for the next hour, I have this amazing email from the, speaking of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, it just came to my attention. They sent out an email. May your holidays and New Year be filled with good company. Happy holidays from all of us at the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. We're grateful for your support and partnership in growing the Arkansas economy. Join us in taking a look back over an amazing year filled with good news that will never be what they said it's going to be. I added that last part. So they're taking flack. The person that sent this to me was like, they didn't say Merry Christmas. It's like, well, you know, what do you expect from the Arkansas Development Commission? What do you expect from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission? You think they're the White House? You think they're going to actually say Merry Christmas? No. May your holidays be filled with good company. May your holidays be filled with generic slogans. Yeah. We'll see you in the next hour.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Bauer's testimony, again, a lifelong Democrat that we've hired to come in and advise a bunch of Republicans on, what tax policy is. One of the things he said when he was talking about property taxes was that bond rating agencies really like property taxes because it's a stable source of revenue in an economic downturn. Did you hear that part?
Yeah, it's, again, unfortunately, a way we can – it was basically how can we, find ways to raise revenue or other ways to make sure we can – increase the revenue going forward without cutting taxes or spending elsewhere. And that's, I think, maybe plays into that. And like we talked about, you talked about last week, Paul, bonds are equals future tax increases. And, they do want to look at that. They want to know, okay, if property taxes are high or the rates are high, those are a somewhat reliable source of income to the state rather than income taxes or sales taxes that fluctuate based on the economy. But people, you owe your property tax regardless if you got the money or not. If you made money or not this year, the bill comes due. And so I think that was one focus, though. Maybe a positive spin out of it was, okay, we understand that property taxes are maybe, if we raise those are the most politically toxic because, typically the people who own a lot of property, whether or not they can pay it, that's always a question. So, it's kind of an unfair type of thing. Okay, here's your tax bill you get a couple of times a year, property tax or whatever it's sent out, and then whether or not they can pay it, they don't really care, whereas the sales tax and income tax is based on how the economy is doing, either your personal consumption or your personal production.
Was there any consensus? Because, it sounds like it was a different feel. The meeting yesterday, again, was about, seemed to be actual tax cut ideas and what other states have done. The meeting today, more about revenue neutral, which is, not really about shrinking government and then giving more money back to the people. It's more about making sure that government has the exact same amount of money, at least, as it's getting now, and just kind of shifting everything around. The presentation as a whole, though, Randy Bauer, I've covered this. You can go see his tweets. But what were the thoughts? How was the performance of the presentation?
Well, there were at least two instances that I can remember that were just pointed out. We don't know if there's more. There's two instances, Paul, today where the amount of revenue that was collected from a specific tax is the inventory tax. That was actually corrected by a presenter later on. And then a specific amendment that was referenced in one of the slides on the presentation was also corrected. I think that was kind of a basic amendment on property tax generally about the millage rate and stuff. And so that was kind of, I think a little alarming to some people. I'll just tell you this, Paul, someone who was sitting in front of me when we broke for lunch, she was frustrated, got up and said, so much misinformation,
Wow.
And that's, that's not my words. That's not, maybe they're more of an expert on the property tax issue. But that was what I overheard from the person sitting in front of me after the presentation from this morning.
So we've paid this guy $300,000, and they're presenting to the task force committee, and they're presenting numbers that are not accurate. They're being called out. These numbers are being called out as being incorrect, and people are correcting the record. And then it's obviously so obvious, I know that was redundant, that the audience is saying, wow, so much misinformation. So that was kind of the vibe that you were feeling was, hey, maybe we're not getting the whole truth here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say with other specifics. I think the person sitting in front of me had a lot more expertise. And to be fair, I think Randy Bauer said, okay, there's more people with more expertise in this. But, you know, at the end of the day, like you said, if we're paying someone $300,000, you know, I hope they're either finding the experts to bring in as part of that contract or something. But one positive thing, Paul, I think today that maybe we can focus on was actually recommendations from
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome. It's hour number 2. I can't believe I ended the big segment that we did on this huge, unsealed, I guess, plea agreement concerning a guy by the name of Don Jones out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but has to do with Missouri-based preferred family health care, as well as former state representative, some former state representative here in Arkansas from Melbourne, as well as lobbyists, consultants from Rogers, and it had to do with taking nonprofit money and using it to try to lobby legislators to give them more money. And, of course, it's a healthcare entity, and it's a big deal. And it's really, I think, blown the lid off of just this whole powder keg. And I just think at this point, things are going to start moving. I mean, the justice system is slow. Let me remind you, though, as much as we want our justice system to work, and I hope that it does, and I hope people that have acted in bad faith are brought to justice, but it's ultimately up to us, we the people, to secure and attend to government, to secure our liberties and attend to government. So keep that in mind in all of this. And specifically the next story we're going to get to. But before we move on to John Woods and the audio tapes, you got to finish this next part, okay? This is about, money laundering and everything else. Okay, under the alternative opportunities and preferred family names, the company received more than $620 million in state and federal taxpayer money through Medicaid reimbursements from Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma from 2011 to 2016, according to the plea document. The companies also received $53.4 million in federal taxpayer funds through various grants, contracts, loans, and other means. Additionally, persons 1 through 4. By the way, I want to know what money did they had a meeting with the Arkansas. Tom Goss had a meeting with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, who, by the way, sending out emails not saying Merry Christmas but saying Happy Holidays and I hope you have good company and a generic day. Basically, they're just saying that. I added the generic part. Anyway, I want to know if the Arkansas Economic Development Commission actually gave them money. Anybody else want to know if they figured out a way to give money to Tom Goss and Bontia? I do. But that's another investigation. $53.4 million in federal taxpayer funds through various grants, contracts, loans, and other means. Additionally, persons 1 in the plea deal through 4 concealed, covered up, and falsified evidence to maintain the charity's tax-exempt status. The money taken was listed as consulting or training costs. Jones, who pled guilty, was one of the consultants to whom the fees were passed through in the scheme. The consulting agreement with Jones was a sham, with Jones paying kickbacks to persons 1 through 4 and keeping a portion for his firm, the plea reads. Also, at the request of person 4, Jones would and did make 2 payments to person 7. Person 7 is suspected to be the former state representative from Melbourne, Arkansas. Favors obtained by use of political influence and properly gained by the scheme included the calling off of a 2010 IRS audit of alternative opportunities on overtime pay, the plea states. This was done through influence with unnamed U.S. senators and representatives. This goes all the way to Congress. The charity used its political influence after the 2011 tornado in Joplin, Missouri, to obtain federal money, the document reads. It tapped federal emergency relief funds not normally accessible to the counseling service. Nothing like a good crisis, right? Never let it go to waste. These people are leftists. Jones hand-delivered political contribution checks to supportive congressmen, it says. Jones also used the influence the charity paid to help Entity E regarding a shipment of thermostats from China. Man, shipment of thermostats from China. I wonder if we could get that thermostat company in China to relocate to Arkansas. I'm sure if we paid him enough. Maybe Asa Hutchinson needs to go schedule another trip to China. Sounds like there's a thermostat company that make a great fit here in Arkansas. In the third related federal case, David Carl Hayes, earlier this year. Oh, and by the way, Doug Thompson, he says that the former Melbourne state representative is State Representative Eddie Cooper. It fits the bill. It tells you person 7, and he served from this date to this date. So most people are pretty certain that it's State Representative Eddie Cooper is the person named in this plea. Keep in mind, Eddie Cooper is a former chair of the House Public Health Committee. Don't you ever let anyone on the left try to take the moral high ground when it comes to Medicare for all. We're just trying to help people. Don't you see what families are going through when they can't have insurance, and no one should go bankrupt in this country because of their health care? No one should. It's not that. It's not about that at all, folks. It has that is you. That the people in control now. They're useful idiots, and there are people that have good intentions and genuinely believe we should take money from others, give it to the government, and have the government quote help end quote those people. But the people at the top, the people actually making these decisions, they're growing government because it benefits them personally. They're growing government because it benefits them personally. They don't want it to shrink because it means their wallet gets lighter. But just don't let them tell you that this is about, some just forced, like, you're a bad person if you don't believe in this government program. Well, it's not about people's health care, okay? Not about people's health care. This is about making people rich, making a select few rich. The left wants to talk about, the 1% not paying their fair share. Well, you know what? It's really way less than that. I mean, we're just talking about people who are connected with government. I mean, we're just like people who are earning that living by graft, and it's honest graft with loopholes, or in this case, it's illegal graft. They just got to get caught. In the third related federal case, David Carl Hayes, earlier this year, pleaded guilty in Missouri to charges including theft from Alternative Opportunities. Hayes was Alternative Opportunities. Again, Alternative Opportunities, the company that Jeremy Hutchinson passed a resolution commending for their amazing work back in 2013. We showed you the bill last hour. That's Governor's nephew number 2. Hayes was Alternative Opportunities Coordinator of Merger and Acquisition Activity from 2006 to 2013. Quote, doing business at Dayspring Behavioral Health Services. Oh, by the way, Eddie Cooper is now the head of Dayspring Behavioral Health Services. Alternative Opportunities operated dozens of clinics throughout the state of Arkansas. Hayes embezzled from Dayspring from January 3, 2011 to March 31, 2014 by causing Dayspring to issue checks payable to himself or a person not identified in court documents, which Hayes deposited into his personal checking account. Hayes, who pleaded guilty June 12th, was found dead in Missouri in November in what authorities described as a suicide. Authorities described it as a suicide. But it would be a fact to say this person, again, David Carl Hayes, probably had a I don't know, front row seat to a lot of stuff. We don't have that information. We don't have access to that information anymore. Speaking of possibly not having access to information, I tweeted out earlier that Senator John Woods may walk. He may get off on those charges because of this story about missing audio recordings being deleted by an FBI agent. Now, let me just say, I have since been contacted by individuals who say, no, we think that the recordings that the FBI agent deleted, that the defense, John Wood's defense, is wanting and now claiming the government acted in bad faith, these secret recordings. I am now, I have been, people have said, hey, look, they still exist. They're not gone, okay? They're not gone, so maybe John Woods doesn't walk on a technicality. But you can bet his attorney is going to argue this whole thing should just be dismissed because they're going to claim the government acted in bad faith. This is a huge, I told you, this may be the biggest news day of the year. And I'm just. So the laptop computer used in the investigation of a kickback case involving state lawmakers was missing 79 covertly recorded audio files because a federal investigator took it home. Stop. Back on December 4th, John Wood's trial was supposed to commence. That was a Monday. On December 1st, the judge announced not going to happen, because the defense learned of secret recordings that they didn't have access to. Yada, yada, yada. Now we find out that those recordings are missing, but maybe not. But according to this report, lawmakers involving state lawmakers were missing 79 covertly recorded audio files because a federal investigator took it home for unauthorized personal use and then wiped the machine's memory before returning it. Hang on, I have a text here I got to get to because I do want to correct the record. I said something about Eddie Cooper and Eddie Cooper, Dayspring. Yeah, well, in the article, I think maybe Eddie Cooper was associated before at some point in the past. I read it somewhere, but that was last hour. So if I misspoke, he's maybe not the current head. Or maybe doesn't work for them anymore. But he did at some point, or at least the article said that. So anyway, just want to correct the record on that. My apologies. All right. Missing 79 covertly recorded audio files. Listen to this, because an FBI agent who was an investigator on this took home a laptop for unauthorized personal use and wiped the machine's memory before returning it. Now, does that sound familiar to anybody out there who's been paying attention the last year concerning what's been going on with Hillary Clinton's emails? What, like with a cloth? The missing files caused the delay of the corruption trial of former state Senator John Woods of Springdale and 2 others accused of arranging kickbacks in return for state grants. The trial was delayed until April 9th instead of the scheduled December 4th date. Defense attorneys in the case have filed for dismissal, alleging the government acted in bad faith. This is potentially a catastrophic outcome that would cause a complete loss of faith in our justice system. The people of Arkansas would not have justice. If John Woods walks because an FBI agent took the recordings home and deleted them, this is ridiculous. What is going on? How would you make a mistake like this? That's what I keep. I mean, multiple people have texted me this article today. How do you make a mistake like that? How? How would you make a mistake like that? As an FBI agent, how do you take sensitive recordings home on a laptop and you wipe the laptop on accident? Okay. A letter filed in court records on Monday attached to a renewed motion to dismiss the case includes the government's letter detailing what happened. So what happened? Well, so FBI Special Agent Robert Cesario told government attorneys that he wiped the government laptop's memory before handing it over to the Bureau's Computer Analysis Response Team examiner. Is that a crime? Let me ask you, is that something that is that a customary procedure of the FBI that, hey, we need that laptop back. Oh, okay, let me wipe it before I hand it back. What's it called again? The Computer Analysis Response Team examiner asked why the agent, according to Doug Thompson, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, said he, quote, allowed his children to download and play games on it, end quote, and he downloaded personal medical records, including those involving his children, and didn't want his supervisors to know. So you wipe the memory because you take a laptop that is not authorized for personal use. You allow your kids to play games on it. You had medical records, so you wanted to just wipe the whole thing because you didn't want the FBI to see your children's medical records. You didn't want the FBI to see your medical records. Okay. Does that make sense to anybody? He also said the computer had been wiped previously since November 3rd, 2016, once it was infected with ransomware, and another time when its memory was full. What kind of, look, I know, I mean, ransomware is a big deal. It's a huge issue. There's no question that it is, but, I don't know. You would think that an FBI agent would know how to not get ransomware. I guess that's my first inclination. Once it was infected with ransomware, another time when its memory was full, he was trying to locate records showing that, according to Monday's letter. Hearings on the matters, let's see. Woods, a Republican from Springdale, all 3 are charged. Shelton's motion argues that the government's claim that it never obtained the audio recordings isn't true. Asked about Cesario's role, a spokesman for the FBI headquarters in Little Rock said this was an internal personal matter and the agency has no further comment on it. Monday's letter confirms that the FBI has taken up an investigation into the matter. So this FBI agent is now being investigated for deleting audio recordings. So we will see. And again, I'm told that everything may be fine, right? I'm told everything may be fine. But we'll see. You know, and attorneys can make anything, you know, a mountain out of a molehill, is this expression. Of course, they're going to do that, try to do that for their clients. So these audio recordings, surely these secret audio recordings exist somewhere else other than a FBI agent's laptop. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
iTex is your first choice for cost-effective IT services. Protecting your business means protecting your data. Are you tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending? Using iTex will prevent downtime and loss of employee productivity and do it all within an affordable, predictable budget. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses. They help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money, and you should contact them today for a free consultation. 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good. Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP parody.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed our first hour, I would encourage you to go and get it in some fashion. You can get the podcast at paulharrell.com or the video archives, or go back and watch it on Facebook Live. We talked to State Representative Dan Sullivan, as well as gentleman attorney Mr. Tyson Landhofer from the Alliance Defending Freedom, who is the counsel for Ms. Hoggard at Arkansas State University in the freedom of speech lawsuit. They're saying that Arkansas State's policy is not consistent with the First Amendment when it comes to regulating speech. And so that was a great little 30-minute segment that we did with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And again, State Representative Dan Sullivan was on too. So it was a good conversation. We are going to go back to break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more. Well, I've actually got a ton of stuff to get to. Let me regroup, and I want to just go over a few headlines and also give you a tax update from D.C. Don't go anywhere.
welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
For commerce about eliminating the franchise tax and eliminating the inventory tax. There is actually discussion on that, and if we eliminated that, how much would that cost? So, I'd like to hear more of that going forward, ways we can eliminate taxes. And I think Representative Jeff Williams actually sent out a tweet or Facebook post today about, yes, we do need to eliminate these. So
wow, you mean
that was one positive thing coming.
The corporate tax, you're saying. They talked about eliminating it.
So, well, the corporate franchise tax.
Okay.
So a business in Arkansas for the benefit of doing business in Arkansas, for LLCs, it's $150 they have to send into the state every year just for simply existing. And then the inventory tax is a property tax on the inventory of a business. So when you think of Amazon or Walmart, these large companies with these distribution centers, they're never going to, or I would doubt they would ever want to be located in a state with high inventory taxes. And it's kind of a double taxation kind of thing too as well. So those were two taxes that Conduit for Commerce has specifically said we should eliminate to be more competitive, have more job growth, economic growth. And so I hope the task force focuses on that and ways we can eliminate that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, it's good that you're there on the ground, and you can kind of see what would be a positive idea, what would be a negative idea. And so overall, you've now been to 2 days of meetings. Again, the recommendation, a preliminary recommendation is supposed to be out by the end of this month. I know, it's only been a day or an extra meeting, but are there you have any ideas on what's going to be in those recommendations?
I don't, and I was a little confused today. I haven't reached out. I need to reach out probably, and then I was a little confused on who exactly would be writing this recommendation. Would it be the chairman? Would it be the task force collaboratively? Would it be the tax consultant? I think that was a little unclear leaving today. I don't know if that's been discussed, but hopefully we can get some clarification and get back to you on that, Paul.
I hope it's not the consultant. I mean, if it's the consultant, he's just going to write. They're going to write whatever they're told to write because they're being paid to write it. So anyway, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So we will see. They have a few more weeks.
Josh Waters from Political Strategies. We appreciate it, sir. As always, be safe on your travels, and Merry Christmas to you.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Merry Christmas.
All righty, folks.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome back, folks. 870-275-9799. Thanks so much for being with us today. We appreciate it again. Probably the biggest news day of the year, if you're thinking about it. It's huge. This is what I tweeted earlier. Is this the biggest news day of the year? Preferred family health care in the news again, which of course means that this brings up the the attorney that represents the Goss family and also is representing the Bureau of Legislative Research in an FBI investigation and a trial. That's weird. Yeah. Then, of course, they're in the news because of a plea out of Missouri about $1 million of them taking 501c3 contributions and using them to lobby politicians, give them money to secure more government and taxpayer funds. It's a big scheme. It reaches into Arkansas. John Woods may walk because FBI agents' actions with a laptop are now giving the defense a little bit of wiggle room here to argue that the government acted in bad faith because they were told that the audio clippings didn't exist, and they told they were existed, and they were deleted by an FBI agent. Hopefully they still exist somewhere. Then we have this next story we're going to get to, that Arkansas Works welfare recipients, surprise, surprise, are not paying their premiums like they were supposed to. You know, this is why it's a conservative plan, because we're going to give them private insurance, and then we're going to make them pay a penny a month, and that 1 penny a month is going to enable them to take ownership and understand that health care is not free, that it costs stuff and costs money, and we're going to let them pay $1.50 a month, and that's going to really instill in them a personal responsibility to want to go out and what if they don't pay the $1.50 a month? What if they don't pay the $1.50 a month? Oh, well, nothing. They still get to keep their insurance. They still get to keep their coverage, and but it's really going to help. They're going to really come around, and they're going to know that they're personal responsible, and it's not a free program. Okay, well, here's a couple headlines that say differently. The insured face tax taps over amounts due. Arkansas Works enrollees behind in paying premiums. And if you don't catch up on the unpaid health premiums, the state is now saying that they're going to take the money that you owe out of your income tax refunds, which is odd because I thought people on Arkansas Works didn't make much money. So there's probably not going to be any refunds. But it does work when you're a government that is supposed to be conservative and you're not, to try to say that as some bogus excuse of spin. Oh, well, we're going to take it out of there. We're going to get the money. It's not, we're not for able to work, people who aren't working welfare. We're going to make sure the program works. $13 a month. The premiums of $13 a month have been charged since January to participants in the state program with incomes between 100 and 138% of the poverty level. For an individual, that income range is $12,000 to $16,000 a year. Oh, yeah, big. There's going to be big refunds. Big state refunds. You're going to recoup that money, that $13 a month. Big refunds for that population. Out of the more than 300,000 Arkansans enrolled in the program, more than 62,000 were required to pay premiums as of early this year. Only about 20% of enrollees who are required to pay premiums do so on a regular basis. The others owe premiums totaling $8 million. $8 million. Man, can you just feel the personal incentive that's created by these government programs? I mean, can you just feel can you feel the limited government conservatism from these ideas to try to make welfare programs for able to work adults palatable to the Republican base here in Arkansas? Can you just feel it? No? Me neither. Me neither. Andy Davis, Arkansas Works enrollees with unpaid premiums will have tax refund garnished. That's another headline that came out yesterday. $13. So anyway, this is where we are now. Every prediction that we make as limited government conservatives about this big government program come true eventually. And it doesn't matter. The same protectionist status quo politicians that are in with the big businesses and their protectionists and the media, they will still treat the media, the mainstream media in Arkansas, the liberal media in Arkansas, they do not care if politicians lie to the conservative base. They rarely bring it up, but they lie to us all the time to grow government. They claim it's the opposite. No, it's going to be personally responsible. No, we're going to be able to get out of the program wherever we want. All of this stuff. And the media, of course, they have no interest in saying, now, if they were lying to the media or to the leftists and they were doing the opposite, it actually became conservative or did something fiscally, then they would say, you lied, or they would report on it. But they know that this state is way more to the right than our current government. They know that it is. So they have no interest in telling you. Instead, the same people in the leadership that refuse to lead us out of Obamacare or out of dependency, they will still be held up in the media as credible despite everything they've said about this program being wrong. They say we can sustain it. You can't sustain it. They say only 215,000 people are going to ever sign up. 330,000 sign up. We now have 1 million people who are on some form of Medicaid in this state out of 3 million people. Folks, that is an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment. All right, so give me a phone call. Let me know what's going on, 870-275-9799. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Somebody's correcting me here, Dano on Facebook, saying, Paul, they don't earn much money, but they get thousands back in federal and state taxes. Yeah, you talk about the welfare program. I don't know if that's necessarily correction. I'm just talking about refunds. I mean, you know, a lot of people that don't pay taxes don't tend to get refunds. Now, I mean, you do get child tax credits and things like that. So I don't mind, sure. I can take that criticism. I see what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying. So yeah, maybe they will get the $8 million. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we certainly are. We're paying the taxes that actually get distributed out to the programs that disincentivize work. In this case, we're talking about $2 billion a year. So, real quick, hang on one second. I've got a few articles here, Joe, that you don't have, and it's fine. It's fine. One that stood out to me was on ASA. Okay? In D.C., Arkansas governor argues for NAFTA. He asks Pence and others to protect the pact. Now, let's just say the North American Trade Agreement is one of the key things that Donald Trump criticized during his successful run to the White House last year, was NAFTA. And Asa Hutchinson, I just want to point out, once again, he was against the health care repeal, even though he said he was for it. He goes on MSNBC and CNN and criticizes and publicly disagrees with Trump on what the best path forward is. And now he goes to Washington, D.C., and he meets with Vice President Mike Pence, Governor Hutchinson, and he argues against Donald Trump's criticism of NAFTA, apparently. He was one of 4 governors at the hour-long meeting. Quote, it was important for them to hear exactly what the impact would be on Arkansas if the nearly quarter-century-old agreement is abandoned, Hutchinson said. If Trump were to terminate NAFTA, it would be very harmful, the governor said. I do not believe that is the goal of the administration. Their preference is that NAFTA be renegotiated in a way that's more fair. And that may be true, but it also may be that Donald Trump has a press conference tomorrow and says, we're getting rid of this because this is what I campaigned on. What do you guys think? I'm telling you, there's a lot about the Trump agenda, whether you agree with it or not, that is not status quo at all, that is not establishment at all. And this idea of the deep state, this idea of people who are in government who don't really answer to anybody, they're bureaucrats, but they're lifers. Is Asa a lifer? I mean, I know he's been elected governor, but I asked the question last week, is Asa deep state? I mean, he did work at Homeland Security. He was a congressman in D.C. for a very long time. It's just interesting to think about. But sometimes you have to end a bad program to renegotiate. Do you know that? Sometimes you just got to be willing to walk away in order to renegotiate. Maybe Donald Trump knows that. I mean, maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is not going to be a thing. You know, I mean, you had that great speech on the climate change, on the Paris Climate Act, where he was just like, basically, hey, this America is being extorted here by agreeing to something that these other countries are not. They don't have to agree to. Why would we agree to this? Why would we agree to certain restrictions on what amount of resources we can take out of the earth? Like, why would we ever do that as a country when other countries aren't going to have to agree to that? That's not fair. You're going to punish America just because we're a successful country? It was a fantastic speech. But he says that NAFTA works for Arkansas. See, I wonder is Asa even open to what the alternative would be? Quote, NAFTA works for Arkansas. Scrapping it altogether would be counterproductive. It needs to be modernized. It needs to be updated. Why is Asa injecting himself into this? Right? I mean, in many ways, I don't get the feeling that Governor Hutchinson is really, I mean, it's like he thinks all of his work needs to be done outside of Arkansas. Well, what do we get? Well, okay, we need jobs. All right, I got to go to China. I got to try to get some jobs. I got to go to Europe. I got to go try to get some jobs. You know, I got to go to Washington, D.C., and I got to ask the vice president to not mess with NAFTA. I mean, why not? I mean, do we not understand? I mean, we are the most overtaxed state in this region. We spend $7,000 per person, almost $8,000 per person on government, while other states around us spend $5,000. We are over-regulated. We're over-licensed. And there's so many things we could be doing right now to jumpstart the economy here in Arkansas. And instead, we're going to D.C. and saying, please don't end NAFTA, which was one of Donald Trump's, it was one of his key criticisms. What's next? You're going to say, hey, please don't build the wall. Big corporations really need the cheap labor. Telephone number is 870-275-9799. The Associated Press reporting that Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge saying that a House harassment document is not releasable to the public. This was news to me. I didn't even know about that. But there's all this talk about sexual harassment. In D.C., it started with like Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood and the casting couch and all of that. And so now everybody, and of course you had Roy Moore, now everybody is, it's all about allegations. It's just open season right now. Arkansas's top attorney says a document related to a harassment complaint involving a lawmaker within the past 9 years doesn't have to be released to the public because it's an employee evaluation record. I'm sorry, yeah, because it is considered an employee evaluation record. The Speaker of the House, Jeremy Gillum, asked Attorney General Leslie Rutledge for an opinion because there was an open request, I guess an FOIA records request by the Associated Press wanting to know if there's any sexual harassment complaints that have been made against legislators since 2008. And so Attorney General Leslie Rogers is saying that document is not releasable to the public. That's which is interesting. It's very interesting. What do you guys think on that? I mean, we are entering into this period of just allegation after allegation after allegation. However, the actual government documents that document complaints. I mean, what's going on in Congress now with these sexual harassment? And you find out about that secret fund that just secretly settles the congressmen when they have complaints. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is kind of weird. That's a shady situation. Anyway, we have to go to break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program. Merry Christmas. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Welcome to the Arkansas Obamacare Hotline. We would be more than happy to help you enroll in Arkansas Obamacare today. We just need a little information about you. Let's get started. If you're disabled, pregnant, or looking for medical care for your child, the program is currently full, and there's no doctors to see you. Please hang up now. If you're an able-bodied adult, please press 1. If you're currently employed, we're sorry, but you most likely do not qualify for the program. Please quit your job and call back later. If you don't work and instead play video games all day with your cats in your grandmother's basement, please press 1. If you've never lived in Arkansas, press 1. If you currently live in another state, press 1. If you recently purchased a home in New Jersey for $750,000, please press 1. If your current identity has previously been used by another person, was created before your actual date of birth, or doesn't really exist, please press 1. Congratulations! It sounds like you're the perfect candidate to receive Arkansas Obamacare. Please stay on the line, and a hardworking DHS employee will be with you as soon as possible. While you're waiting, feel free to relax as your ambitions to gainful employment fade away. PHP Parody.
All right, Merry Christmas, everybody out there. Thanks so much for being with us. I mean, the countdown here is, it's getting close. If you haven't finished your shopping, you know what? I was talking to somebody the other day, though, that just didn't. They're like, you know what? I don't even really do the whole exchanging gifts, with a huge family thing anymore. We just kind of like to go away, into a cabin and just appreciate, the birth of Christ. And that's cool, too. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, I'm a procrastinator, okay? Like, I still have one more gift to get. And I'm really blessed because my wife and I've got a lot to be thankful for. I've got a 5-month-old girl, our first child. And so it's baby's first Christmas. But I'm really blessed because my wife has done, like, all of my shopping, or the shopping this year. For my family and for her family. So when I say I have one more gift to pick up, it's hers. And so I've got to go. I've got to do that. So I've gotten her one already, but there needs to be just one more, I feel like. So.
I'm still trying to think about what I want to get the rest of the immediate members of my family.
Mm-hmm.
It was real easy. It was real easy for me to get the little ones because so I have a little sister. She's 10, and then I have my sister is about to get married, or she's going to get married in June, and
so you have a future brother-in-law to buy for.
Future brother, well, kind of, yeah. He's okay. He doesn't mind if I like. Honestly, he's a very simple. Like,
he's not in the family yet.
There's that. Well, here's the thing. He's a very simple individual.
Regrets if things don't work out. Well, by June, it's like I gave that guy a Christmas present.
Well, okay, so my sister's getting married in June, and when she gets married, I immediately become an uncle.
Okay,
because he's been married before and has 2 kids from the last marriage. It was a whole mess.
Okay, so you're gonna get the kids something.
I already did.
Okay.
It was super
easy.
It was super easy to get a gift for my little sister and my niece and my nephew, future niece and nephew.
Got to make that good first impression as the new uncle.
Oh, don't worry. I will be the best new uncle of all time.
Okay.
For these kids.
I think you will, too.
Well, because of what I got them. I'm not going to say it on air because in case,
who knows?
For whatever reason, they might find out.
It shows reach is growing every day. So,
but I got them something, and my dad, I was there with my dad when he got his gift for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So our gifts work together.
Yeah.
So we have to give them to him at the same time.
We have a minute. Spoiler free. Joe, you did get to go see Star Wars.
I did. I got to see Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Okay, and so we were really worried on Friday that it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
Just because of some of the reviews. So real quick, we got like a minute. What did you think about it? No spoilers.
Okay, I thought the movie was good. I have some complaints about it and certain just general there are little details that perturbed me when I saw the movie. I understand the reasoning for some of the things, but for the most part, the movie from beginning to end I thought was pretty good.
Okay, so
if I was going to give it a rating,
okay,
I do mine out of 10 stars. I give it a 7, but for me on my grading scale, I use a similar grading scale as the American education system, where a 7 is a 70, so that's average for me.
Okay.
If he gets below a 5, it's an awful movie for me.
Okay, so what did you rate it?
I gave it a 7, maybe a 7.5.
Oh, okay. All right.
This
real quick.
Perspective.
Last question, because we got to go. Your friends, when we texted them on Friday, following up to this, we texted your friends on Friday who had already seen it, and that you were just like, one word, good or bad, was it good or bad? And they texted back, still processing.
Yes.
So after seeing the movie,
I get
do you understand why?
Absolutely. I totally get what they're saying. There's a lot in this movie to chew on. And it may, if you're going to go see it, it may take you 1 or 2 days before you can fully go, this was a good movie.
that is so...
Well, it's just because there's a lot, there is a lot that happens in this movie.
Okay.
And I mean a lot.
All right. Folks, Merry Christmas. We'll be back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock, focused on Arkansas, politics, and news, and you won't hear it anywhere else. Arkansas, thanks for listening. Be safe.